see. I'm going to turn my phone off because probably I will be the loser that will have the phone, and I still have a BlackBerry. I just lost all of your respect. Damn it. Okay, so hey everyone, thanks for coming. Let's see if I can do this properly. Yes. Okay, good morning. So how many of you have been to Unique LA or heard of it? Awesome. I've done a lot of talks, and sometimes it's like 2 people in the audience. I'm like, oh God. Awesome, so you're my people. So basically what I do is I try to get the masses to buy locally produced, made in America goods. And I think I tempted the masses by having free drinks, crafts, freebies, photo booth portraits, lots of stuff. I kind of looked at the model of what was happening at the time and tried to put myself in the shoes of a shopper. Obviously, I like to shop. And I tried to figure out how to reinvent it a little bit. And so those are some of the things I did. But let's see if this works. But what I came to create, I had no idea that what I was starting would become my full-time job. I started it so that I could work half the year and take the other half of the year off and travel and write a book. 3 years later, I've done very little traveling, have not written a book, and it's become a real full-time job 12 months out of the year, which is pretty cool. We just started doing Unique LA 4 times a year in Los Angeles now. We're launching in San Francisco in June and New York City in September. So we're going national, and hopefully we'll go international in a year or 2, which will be exciting. So at Unique LA, for those of you who don't know about it, it's a giant shopping event. There's 325 vendors, which makes it the largest show in America of its kind. 20,000 people come to it in 2 days, and they spend, the average is over 1.5 million in those 2 days. So that's actually 1.5 million spent in 16 hours, which is pretty cool. It's pretty astounding. And lots of men come. Our demographics are amazing. It's like 62% women, 48% men. 38, right? I'm creative, so I'm not the best at math or spelling. Get that out there. There you go. Okay, so it's too bad you can't see the hot dad photo over there. So I think some of Unique LA's success can be based on the fact that I really wanted to attract the masses, which to me meant diversity and including absolutely everyone in the community. So I thought I'd point out some of the fabulous older women, and this is really unfortunate. The screen has cut off the older woman who is wearing like a fur boa and holding an owl. These photos were all taken at the events. Adorable kids, obviously, and I get excited when I see the kids and the families because I think these families are raising the younger generation to now know that this is how you can shop. You don't have to go to the mall or to Target. So that is pretty cool when I see it. Hipsters, of course, I'm a hipster. Love the hipsters. I love them. And I pointed out the hot dads because we've noticed in my little team of staff that there are a lot of hot dads that come to the show, which we like and take pictures of. Okay, so I thought instead of diving right into the story of Unique LA and how it came about, I would instead start with my beginnings and kind of take you guys through a creative map per se. I think it's really interesting when I go to see people talk. I love hearing how they got to where they are, and I always love seeing embarrassing old photos of them, so that's what I thought I would give you guys. So at the very, very early age, my parents put me into Montessori, which is kind of a creative private school of sorts, at 2. So I was in school at 2 years old. I don't know how they managed that, how they convinced them to let me in. But I went to Baxter Montessori, which is at the corner of Echo Park Avenue and Baxter and Echo Park. If anyone else here is from Echo Park or lives in Echo Park, Power to ya. So I was really creative, and I begged my family for a camera, and I got one. And I think I might have been 7 years old. And so these pictures are taken at Baxter Montessori, and I would like set people up. Be like, pretend that you're breakdancing, snap. Pretend that you're in the Madonna video, snap. So at a very young age, I was creative. I like to take photos, I like to draw, I like to dance, whatever I could do. It was all about being creative and getting into trouble. So a little further down the road, at 11 years old, so a few years later, these are all things that I found going through boxes, getting ready for this talk. I started making catalogs and magazines as a budding young writer. And what's weird when I looked through the stuff, let me just say also, I am not good at drawing. Obviously, I am definitely not that type of creative individual. So at 11 years old, I created these catalogs that were kind of like J. Crew, kind of like the Sears catalogs that I would get, that my parents would get. So here it is, and already, this is what strikes me as really funny, I had like a become a member. Give us your information and your details, including your age. I don't know why I came up with that, but it is very telling as to like what I do now in a weird roundabout kind of way. So what does someone do who likes to write and was doing catalogs at 11? You go into journalism school, at least I did. So that's what I majored in. And for some reason, shopping just keeps coming up. Really hard-hitting investigative journalism pieces. That's what I was interested in. Undercovering where to buy used clothing. But also, I did a lot of writing on what the museums, this was in Toronto, what the museums were doing. So I was kind of like the art design correspondent. So going through my old boxes of stuff, I realized, wow, this stuff has kind of been throughout my life. This one's an embarrassing one. It's amazing and yet really shameful. So there's a book, it's called All About Me. They still sell it at Urban Outfitters. I don't know if anyone here has seen it. My friend and I bought it when we were freshmen in college, and we were like, we're gonna fill it out and this is gonna be awesome. Well, I just found this book again, going through all my stuff to try to figure out what to talk about, and I thought, this is who I was? This is crazy. But at the same time, the three people I considered to be geniuses at the time, Madonna, Oprah, and me. Interesting. Would I change those answers now? Yes, but very telling. Oprah is a great journalist still, did a lot of stuff, so I looked up to her, and she was a woman that was powerful on TV and not white. So she was kind of like me. So to me, she was a huge role model. She may be crazy, but she was a role model. Madonna, always reinventing herself, no matter what. You have to love how creative that woman is. And me, I definitely wouldn't say that now, but the gut to be confident and think that what you're doing and what you're creating is amazing. I'm glad that as a freshman in college, I was confident enough or stupid enough to put that down. So, my first job out of college, Harlequin, romance publisher, Fabio. This is where I started my creative career. Fabio actually, this is never modeled for any of Harlequin's books. It was the competitors that he would model for. I found out once I started working there because I had obviously never read a romance novel before working there, and I had to start reading them once I worked there, and that was very eye-opening. So I worked there for a few years, and I have to say, even though I was writing stuff like the lingerie guide, how to be a curvaceous cutie, like those were literally the articles that I would write day in and day out, and I thought I would kill myself. It was an absolutely amazing experience. So, for everyone in the room, at wherever you are in your career, every experience I feel like leads to something else, and you have to take the most from it. I would commute an hour and a half every day to the building where they were, far out in the boonies, and work editing romance content. But I have to say it was a really amazing experience because there were a lot of women managers, and you don't see that in most Fortune 500 companies. They were at very high levels. The VP was a woman. So I was mentored by some really strong women, which I think is important. And I think that sense of community really began to grow and foster while at Harlequin. And they also taught me to just focus more and be better at writing and better at editing, which was something that they try to teach you in journalism school, but it doesn't really quite work. So I was bored, so I started freelancing. So I started writing for all these different newspapers and magazines, and still bored, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew that writing and editing, it was something that I loved. It wasn't giving me that satisfaction. Oddly enough, I kept writing about shopping in some weird way, and design, and the arts. So then something really weird happened. In my early 20s, I started falling asleep all the time. And so this is me at the hospital with a bunch of electrodes to my head, and it turns out that I am narcoleptic, which is kind of put a roadblock in my career plans. Trying to be a writer or an editor and sitting at your laptop writing is very hard when you have an issue with staying awake during the day. So that was an interesting roadblock, but obviously everything happens for a reason. So I kind of stopped writing so much and editing, because clearly I couldn't. People would get emails from me, and it was like, and they'd send me, and be like, did you mean to send me this? And I was like, I don't remember sending you that, and I'm sure what I was typing made sense, but that's what happens when you're narcoleptic. So instead, I transitioned my career at that point to directing new media. So I ran a bunch of TV stations online, and it was new media, so it was a little more exciting, and the pace was a little bit faster. We were creating websites. I launched Home & Garden's website before they even had a website, which blows me away. And while we're running all these TV stations online, for some reason, the TV producers of Home & Garden TV looked at me one day and were like, why aren't you on TV? You're a woman, you're a minority, you're of mixed race, and you love art and design. Let's get you on TV. Cool. Went on TV. I had the journalism background, so it was perfect. So I became a star in Canada on HGTV, and I transitioned my career completely to doing design, to being an interior designer, which was awesome and super fun, but I was still bored. Something still wasn't right. It was glamorous, it was cool, but I was still bored. So what does someone do when they're on TV and bored and living in Toronto? You move to LA. I did grow up in Los Angeles. Let me just say, I grew up in Los Angeles, and my family moved to Canada when I was 14, 2 weeks before 9th grade. Interesting time to move a teenager. So I moved to LA, and I'm here, and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do with my life? I've moved to LA, I've gone to the beach as often as possible, I'm way too tan now, I've gotta do something. So this is how Unique started. I got a job on Trading Spaces, my favorite show of all time. If you work for HGTV, really, you wanted to be like on TLC's Trading Spaces. I had big dreams, set the bar really high. So I moved to LA, and I actually got cast on Trading Spaces. Couldn't believe it, but it was the next generation Trading Spaces. It was no longer Paige Davis and Hilda and all the crazy designers, Frank. I see some of the people laughing, and I know they were Trading Spaces junkies, like I was. So it was no longer that cast and crew, and I was now gonna be like the new interior designer. So that was awesome. I was riding around in my used Volvo that I paid $700 for, and I was like, I've made it. I'm gonna be on Trading Spaces, everything's great. We filmed episodes, flew to Austin, flew all around, and I got axed. So then I'm sitting there thinking, great, I had my dream job, and I got axed, and I'm a huge loser, and I don't know what to do with my life. So I went to the beach again. But it was 2008, and there was a huge election that year, and I'm pretty politically involved, and I consider myself a social activist, so I decided to not look for work, and register voters all year. So that's what I did. We used to organize and stand around corners holding huge signs that said, I heart voters. Very strange, very exciting. Kesha, the pop star, was actually one of my volunteers. She would paint signs and hold signs around LA with us, kind of random factoid. She's very rich now, isn't she? So there I am registering voters, and everything's going great, and the election's coming, and I think, okay, well, he's in, awesome. Now I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do. I have to start thinking about getting a real job, and part of that was because there's my mom. What are you doing with your time in LA? We're worried about you. So I realized, okay, I really do have to get a job. But the economy in 2008 was shit. So then I started thinking, do I really want to work for someone else and try to find a job and hustle and send my resume out and do all that stuff? Or do I want to start my own thing in the worst economy of my lifetime? I'm going to start my own thing in the worst economy of my lifetime. So I created a concept while in my car. Probably most of you do your thinking like I do in my car, or walking if you walk, or take metro. Or bike. I love biking in LA. So I came up with this concept, and I was thinking to myself, what is it going to be? What should I do? And shopping event came to mind, which is random. I had never, I wasn't an events organizer. I didn't do anything like this in school. But I thought to myself, I really want to help small businesses. And while I had been registering voters in the community, I had gotten to know a lot of the small businesses and the community members and the politicians like Eric Garcetti. And I thought, wow, there is talent, creative talent that I have, I think, in my brain and my heart that I might be able to put to use in LA. So I'm going to create a shopping event. I want to help lots of the small business owners and designers make money. So how can I do that? I want to show off LA, because when I moved back to LA, everyone made fun of me. Not sure why. Everyone in every other city loves to hate LA. I don't know what it is. LA doesn't have creative people. LA is just Hollywood and women getting, like fake boobs and hair extensions. And I thought, this is crazy. The LA I know is filled with world-class artists, museum curators that are moving from all over the world to be in this city. Why does everyone hate it so much? So I thought, I'm going to try to show LA off a little bit. And then, because I was sitting in my car thinking about this concept, I thought, and it's got to be something that's really, really big and in one location. Because I'm driving from like Abbot Kinney to Echo Park to Mount Washington to all my favorite boutiques buying gifts for my friends, and this just doesn't make sense. It's bad for the environment. I'm wasting my time. And then the last thought I had was, in typical American fashion, I've got to go big or go home. So that's what I did. I created the event, and in my head I thought, I just have to find a huge space and fill it with people, with great vendors, and hopefully the community will come and support that. I did use I should have my mom's face up here again, because I told my family my plans, and my plans were to use my 401k at the time. So it was $30,000. That's all I owned in life. I don't know how I managed to even save that much. At a young age, I must have just been like putting stuff away. I don't know. $30,000. I thought, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to rent that space, and I'm going to do it. And my mom thought, holy crap, Sonja's doing something crazy again. I better fly out there. So she flew out, and helped me. It was definitely a family affair. There's my mom. She flew out from Georgia. She's selling tickets at the very first Unique LA. Obviously, I had no staff. It was literally me. I did the entire show, and so I basically relied heavily on volunteers who were amazing. And then, it's funny, I still get comments about this picture, because these are my friends, Marguerite and Chris, who are both actors. She, I guess, is known for the Mighty Ducks series. I didn't know that. I think I'm just a little too old to have seen that series of movies, but she's also known for a cult classic, which is, oh my God, not American Pie. What am I thinking? Someone out here knows. Summer camp movie. They wear knee socks. Paul Rudd is it? Yes, Wet Hot American Summer. So, people who came to the first couple Uniques would see her serving them free beer and drinks, and they would freak out over it. And they're like, how did you get her to do it? Because I made all my friends work for me for free. So that basically is how Unique started. There's a dancer choreographer in New York City. Her name's Twyla Tharp, and she wrote a book called, I think it's called The Creative Process. I just realized a little Canadian accent came in there. Process. How do Americans say it? Process. The Creative Process by Twyla Tharp. It's a really interesting book, and so again, when I was told last week that I was going to do this talk, I just started going through boxes of stuff just to see, like, yes, I came up with a shopping event, but what are some of the other weird things that I could maybe link it to? She came out with a book in 2003 when I was bored, right before I moved to LA. Didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I was working, but I hated it. And in the book, there is this little section, Creative Autobiography. And I think everyone in here should take it because it's super cool, if not just to read it 10 years later, like I just did this week. It's pretty amazing. So in it, some of the questions: describe your first successful creative act. Describe your second successful creative act. Interesting. So 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, before I had moved, I was still a journalist at that point, had no idea I would start Unique LA. I answered. The answer, my first creative event, was organizing mini talent shows at family functions, plays, dancing, being MC. Okay, random. There I am performing. My second successful event, creating and directing charity fashion shows in high school. I secured all the clothes, advertiser made the ads, programs, tickets. This is a beautiful clip art ad that you can see. I think I used Corel Draw, which puts me back a few years. This you can't see, but it's my stage directions, like where the model should walk. It was arrows, pretty high tech. We got newspaper coverage for the fashion shows, and this is a ticket to the prom because I didn't answer in number 14 this, but in Canada there were 5 years of high school, so you would be drinking age by the time prom came around, which meant the school could have nothing to do with it for liability purposes. So that meant someone could throw the prom and make the money. So there's the ticket that I made, also using Corel Draw, a fine program at the time. So it's weird, when looking back at this book and the answers that I wrote, I was throwing events and organizing and producing long before I was writing and editing, yet I didn't really put the two together. So I find that really interesting, and I highly recommend you guys check out, maybe I'll put it on the website, the link to her book, or maybe I'll just write all the questions and put it on our website, because it's a really cool thing, and I think for anyone, in a creative industry, to constantly be reminding yourself of what your goals are, who you look up to, what are the artists that you like and why. I think that's a good exercise at any time. So I guess in parting, Do things that you really fucking love. Pretty important. You know, when I started Unique LA, as I said, I thought it would be like a part-time thing and I could do other stuff on the side. But it really became this passion, and the way that the community has outreached back to us has been really fulfilling. And so, you know, after all these years of searching, what am I gonna do? I thought I would be like an award-winning journalist. I thought I would give like Oprah a run for her money. Tyra Banks beat me to it. But, you know, instead, I'm here talking to you guys, and I'm doing something that I love. Our offices are a couple blocks away in downtown LA. Never thought I would actually have an office and a staff. Very weird. But it's been great, and it's been a really cool process and ride. So thank you guys for coming. I think my last slide just says, thanks, y'all. So yeah. Oh, and the weird black things that are on your chairs or that are around, those are key tags. Each one has a unique number. And if for some reason you ever lose your keys and someone drops them in the mailbox, contact us because they will get to our office. There you go. So yeah, I don't know.
Any questions?
Yeah. Yeah, so we hold it in someplace called the California Market Center, which is downtown at 9th and Los Angeles. We hold them there usually around Valentine's Day, a spring show. So the next show is coming up May 12th and 13th, I think. And then a holiday show, which is this year, December 1st and 2nd. We do the 4th show in the summer in Santa Monica, because we thought we would get out to the west side 1 out of 4 times. So yeah, we're still figuring out where we're gonna have it in Santa Monica though.
The URL, I'm assuming, is uniquela.com.
It's actually stateofunique.com. Stateofunique.com. We had to switch it up because we're going national now, so. Yeah?
When you first started, how did you get the word out?
Okay, good question. I'm thinking, wow, I can't believe I didn't put that in there. I hustled like hell, basically. I'm sure everyone in this room knows what that's like. I'm fortunate enough to be a graphic designer, and I had someone who was helping me with graphic design. So my goal was to make the collateral, all the marketing collateral, like museum quality, like what you would see from MoCA. And I don't know why every time I go to my car, there's a postcard or something on my car that's for like free cell phone covers, or it's always the worst stuff ever. So I thought to myself, if I put something on people's cars that looks good, is designed well, and is of good quality, my guess is they're actually gonna pause and look at it. So this sounds crazy. I had no money for advertising that first show. So the very first show, I relied on 5,000 postcards being put on cars in Los Angeles. Very key areas in Los Angeles. We Google mapped. I literally took a highlighter and highlighted streets in like the Abbott Kinney area, very specific streets in Mount Washington and Eagle Rock, Silver Lake, Echo Park. Let's get those hipsters and those yuppies. I mean, that is literally what we did. And I did it. I wore tennis shoes and I put my headphones on. I still do this sometimes. I put my headphones on and I'd wear a sweatshirt and I'd just walk all over the city putting postcards. And I also invested in a hammer stapler, which is really satisfying. I have to say, it's a great stress reliever. So I would go around the city and put posters on all the poles and just like hammer away. And I was approached a few times, which scared me, by people being like, what are you doing? And they just actually wanted to know about the event. And they were shocked that I was the owner. They're like, aren't you like a college kid that someone hired? And I was like, no, I have no money. And I'm throwing an event, so I'm here stapling. But not that I would recommend doing that, because the city did find me and has fined me. So if they can find where I am, they will find me and fine me. And also, actually, those first couple years also, I have friends who work with Shepherd Ferry, and so they taught me how to wheat paste, and I would go out with them usually at around midnight or 1 a.m. Also very satisfying and exciting. We would go out in, again, hooded sweatshirts. This is like a theme. Hooded sweatshirts and sneakers, and we would jump out of the cars, wheat paste posters for Unique LA, and like run. That's how I spread the word that first year. And I mean, obviously relying heavily on like online. No, they don't. I now know that. They don't. They need an address. But so, this is good public knowledge. The address on the posters is the venue. So she kept getting the bills and then forwarded them on to me. Yeah. And then, yeah.
How long did it take you? I know you have a staff and an office now, so you must be making some money. How long did it take you to start making?
After the first year. So I had to pay back what I had used, but it was about a year. And I think that, the reason I think why I gave some of like a weird autobiography, kind of like a look at my timeline, was because without having the corporate experience that I have, I don't think I ever could have done this event. Working in a corporate environment, even though you may not like it when you're in it, it provides the structure, I think, that you need, and it taught me a lot of discipline. And then just being able to have corporate money to go on like leadership trips and be able to go to conferences. As a small business owner, I can't ever go to those now. Unless I'm invited, there's no way I can pay for any of those things. But working for a company, you can take advantage of going to those things and also take advantage of schooling. So yeah, I mean, the way that I structured Unique was very much like a corporate, like I was doing my marketing or my executive producing. I had a budget and I did it exactly the way I would be if I had to show it to someone and be scrutinized for it. So I think I knew, I was never scared that I was gonna lose money. My parents were, all my friends were, everyone that I knew was very worried for me and thought that I had lost my mind. But I knew, my gut knew that it would be fine and that I would make money within a year. So, yeah.